Hi, it's Claire and welcome to Need or Say More. Today I'm going to show you how to fix a rip that isn't on the seam. So this is a sharp bore jumpsuit with a V-neck, and you can see that the facing has come away from the V-neck because this is a high stress point. It's going to have a lot of wear and tear, and as it has come away, the front of the jumpsuit has ripped on the V-neck. So this needs repairing so that it can still be worn and to prolong the life of the garment. So to start off with, I put the jumpsuit back together to see where the rip was and how deep it was. And then I realised that the facing, where it was stitched and it had also been understitched, this needed to be unpicked so that I could do a clean repair on the edges. I wouldn't have been able to get into the seam because the understitching would have been in the way. So I just unpicked a few stitches just to give me a clear opening and closing for when I'm doing the new seam. At the front of the garment, into the bottom of the V, the fabric has ripped, and even though I'm going to sew it back together, I need to repair this rip to stop it coming apart even more and to strengthen where there will be that weakness. So to start off with, I smoothed the fabric down to try and piece it as close together as it would have been. And then I'm going to get a tiny piece of interfacing in a triangular shape, and I'm going to fuse this to the back of the fabric. So this won't be seen, but this will just hold that fabric back together to strengthen it and stop it ripping anymore. So this is iron-on interfacing. So to fuse it on, it just needs a couple of seconds with a medium iron, and that will just hold that in place. You can use the silicone sheets like I'm using in the video. This just gives an extra layer of protection and stops the iron-on interfacing ironing onto the iron and melting, and it does protect your iron. So I have reinforced on the outer fabric and it's looking much better, ready for the repair. I'm going to press from the right side now just to check that any loose threads that might be sticking up, and it's looking much better. So that's all in place, ready for the repair. I'm now going to repeat this process on the facing because the facing has ripped alongside with the front of the garment. So again, ironing this in place just to strengthen it and reinforce where there is that weakness. The repair will be much easier to do now they are both reinforced. The next step is to pin the two pieces of fabric back together. So I'm carefully pinning it, making sure to line up where the V is on the facing with the V on the front of the garment. It's really important that this all lines up perfectly to keep that shape on the front. Once it's all pinned into place, do your final checks, and then we're going to stitch it on the sewing machine. We're going to go lower than the original seam line so that we can cover up where it has ripped and we've had to reinforce it with the interfacing. It's better to go not quite far enough and then do another line than to go too far and then be unpicking, because we don't really want to unpick on this area of weakness. So it's really important to reverse and or backstitch at the start and finish, just to keep it a really strong seam. And we're going to go along that seam and make sure it's covering up the interfacing that we've just done and the tear. You can see in the video it took me a couple of attempts of sewing it before I quite got low enough, but again, I don't want to be unpicking, so I did a line. Is it low enough? Is it covering that? And then I kept going little by little until I knew I had completely covered it. After a few attempts, I got it so I was happy with it. You couldn't see any of the raw edges or the frayed edges and none of the interfacing. Then when it was in place, I needed to snip down to create a clean point on the facing so it could be flipped through to the other side. Now I know this seems a bit backwards that I have spent ages repairing the rip and going really low, and then now I'm cutting into it. But if you don't cut into a V-neck, it won't turn through cleanly. And this is a clean cut that I'm going to reinforce rather than a tear that kind of has a mind of its own. So trust me on this bit, it absolutely does need to be done. I'm snipping a little way past the V just because it'll be a much cleaner edge and it'll turn through and it'll press really, really nicely. The original garment was understitched inside the facing, so I'm going back into the garment, opening it up, and then I'm continuing the understitching from where I'd unpicked it to. This is an important stage in creating a neat, crisp neckline and continuing the original design so the repair is in fitting with the rest of the garment. You can see there's a tiny little bit of bulk from the neckline, but this has been minimised by snipping into it and understitching. What it needs now is a really good press with some steam. You can see that the new neckline is slightly lower than the original, but you can't see any of the rips in the fabric, any of the interfacing. It looks like a really smart, clean finish. Although the garment has now been repaired, I felt it was important to reinforce this to prevent this repair needing doing again and prevent any more wear and tear to this bit of the garment where the V-neck is. To prevent this, I went all the way around and did a top stitch. I started on the shoulder seam so the reverse stitching would be hidden on the shoulder, went all the way around the front and back, and this will just reinforce it, give it more durability, more strength, and prolong the life of the garment and keep it out of landfill for as long as possible. To keep your top stitching as neat as possible, it really helps to line up the edge of the fabric with the edge of the foot and concentrate on lining it up as you go along. The garment has been repaired and reinforced. It's a neat, clean finish and suitable to be worn again and again. Thank you so much for watching. If you've got any questions, please let me know in the comments.